Okay, let's produce the first spreadsheet of Accounting 232B. You're going to be doing a fixed payment amortization schedule. This spreadsheet will take and essentially tell the user how much money every month you would pay in an amortized debt. Think mortgage. It's the most common application of amortization. So let's call it a mortgage calculator and amortization schedule. First thing we always do when we do anything on the computer is we save our work. So let's save as Accounting 232B Sample Exam 1 Mortgage Calculator. Put your name on it, okay? You know who's doing this one, but when I get 100 of you guys sending them to me, it really helps if you put your name in the file. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, put your name in your file. Now you save it. From this point forward, you'll be able to see that it's at the top, and you'll know that if anything happens, you can always go back and reload from where you let go. Each of the cells in Excel can have either text, formulas, data. It's infinitely flexible. So let's just go forward with what you need at the beginning, and I'll explain as I go along the various things that you will need to do. Cell A1, you'll notice, is highlighted. When I move the cursor, the numbers at the top, right here's the column, and right here's the row, will coincide to give you the address that you're currently at. You can also read that here in the name box. So let's start, and all of your spreadsheets in this class will start with a title. Let's do bold and underline. Bold and underline are done by either clicking on bold and underline or doing a Control B, which turns it on, and a Control U. The control keys are called hotkeys, and the more you know, the faster your work is, and there will be an element of speed that's graded. You'll have time limits on your tests, so practice whenever you can using hotkeys so that you can go fast. Here we go. Mortgage calculator and amortization schedule. Your title is bold and underlined. Okay, that's a format issue, and let's keep it consistent. I'm not grading you on having the exact title that I provided here, but I do want to see that you know what you're producing. You don't need to tell me that this is exam 1 or exam 2, because I'm hoping that as you complete all of these, you'll have a kind of a repertoire that you can pull up and show people that you've actually learned something in your Excel class. Line 2 will always be, let's do line 2 in regular. Line 2 will say, who prepared your spreadsheet? Okay, that should be your name, prepared by you. That way, anybody who looks at this spreadsheet from now until however long it lives on this computer will know who to go to if there are questions. This is very valuable to you because if you're in a large business and this spreadsheet gets copied and sent to other people, it's always good to know who prepared it. And you want to show your good work so that if somebody important sees it, they know who did it. Prepared by. Next thing you need to do is tell me what date it was prepared on. This is a help not only to you but everybody who uses this. Today happens to be January 7th, 2012. I am redoing this video so that everything is shipshape and brand new, and in order to distinguish this one from the multitude of other mortgage calculators that live on my computer, I have a prepared on and a date. That's very important. Next thing you do is you give your user the purpose. The purpose of this worksheet is to prepare an amortization table showing the fixed payment for a mortgage of a specified number of years at a specified interest rate. Okay? When you do a purpose for your spreadsheets, what I'm looking for is just enough text so that I know you understand what you're doing. I don't want to see purpose. The purpose of this worksheet is to get an A. I don't want to see purpose. The purpose of this worksheet is to fill up my Thursday night so that I can't go to the beach with my friends. Tell me what the spreadsheet does. Again, this should be automatic. We're trying to establish good habits so that when you go out into the workplace, you're ready to go and demonstrate your proficiency here. Now, the first concern. I am doing this video with the screen a little bit expanded. Let me take it to normal size. The user can't read that. So your first skill is going to be to learn how to merge your cells and to provide text in a format that can be limited to one page. Since we're probably going to have 5 or 6 columns in this, let's go out to, let's say F. And what I have just done is I've held the Shift key and I've used the right arrow key with the Shift key held down, and that highlights these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Alright, so let's just go back there. You'll see all the text is in A4. The minute I go to B4, there's nothing. So what I do is I hold the Shift key down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if we need to go to G. Let's just leave it at F. Okay, your first concern here is going to be that some of you are using the older versions of Excel. The Testing Center has an older version of Excel because they haven't updated it yet. The library may have a newer version. So when I go to these sections and these commands, you're going to need to practice them and make sure you understand where you're looking. Commands in Excel are found in various ribbons. We're on the Home ribbon. I could go to the Formula ribbon by clicking on Formula and see all of these options for formulas. But let's go back to Home. I've now highlighted these various columns, and what I want to use is this function right here, which we'll highlight. It's called the Merge and Center function, and it's used to create one big cell so that you can either show text or you can make a centered heading over a number of columns. But this is an operation you're going to do on every test in this class. So just practice this until it's flawless. First thing you do is you merge. Okay, now you can't see everything that you've done. Next thing you do is you wrap the text. The box comes up here and it says, it just essentially will make your text run line by line. Click it. Okay, now your cell contains all of the text. It's wrapped, but you can't see it yet. So take down to the line between row 4 and 5 until that little bar with the arrows top and bottom is showing. Click on it and pull it down with your finger on the mouse. Click and drag. I'm going to open it up, and there, let's make it center just right. There is my text, and it's all in one big box. I want to see text aligned to the left margin. Align text left. You see the alignment there? Click on that. That aligns it. Everything's nice. That is how you do a title for all of your tests in this class. Again, title bold and underlined, prepared by your name, prepared on the date you prepare it, and then a purpose that tells the user what the worksheet's going to do. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to prepare our data section. Okay, so let's do Control B, Control U, data section. And we're going to do an additional format here. Enter that, come back up, push the Shift key, hold it down, and let's go out to our column F. That's the same thing. I'm holding the Shift down, hitting the arrow key. Same thing that we did when we were merging that cell in the purpose. So for data section, let's pick a color. And we're going to use color as a visual cue for the user. And there's two ways to do color. Let's look at the first one. The fill color is the one we're concerned with. And what we want to do is we want to open up our options of fill color, and let's pick a light blue. Okay? and that's going to fill up that box with light blue. We're going to keep our text black. So if you accidentally change the text color, you used font color instead of the fill color. Next thing we want to do is we want to wrap a box around the section bar. That clearly shows the user you're in a different place. And what we do is we click on this borders, come down here, and we'll put a thick box border. Alright, now when we back out of that section, you'll see that our data section bar is colored. It's got a bold and an underline to show that it's a main section. I want to see one blank line above and one blank line below any section bar. You may have several sections, but it's important to have a consistent presentation. That's what we like to see. So a blank line above, blank line below. Now what is your data in this example? Your data here, let's start, we'll use column A for this first one. We're going to have the home price. Okay? We're going to have the down payment percentage. We'll have the down payment, let's put a $sign to show that that's going to be the amount of the down payment. Then we have a loan amount. We have an interest rate. We have a loan period. Let's give our user a cue to show that we're using years here. Rather than in some tables you might want to put the loan period in months. But here we're going to use years, okay? And then the monthly payment, because we're doing a fixed payment. This is the mortgage payment that you're going to make every month. Or another amortizing loan would be like a car loan that you would pay every month. Now, this data section contains numbers that you're going to give the spreadsheet to work with, and you're always going to name variables. Many of you will have some Excel experience, and you'll know that whatever I put in this cell C8, let's say my home price is, we're on Oahu, so we'll have to say $750,000. There's my home price. That $750,000 sits in cell C8. I can reference it in another cell by simply typing C8. And there the $750,000 shows up. Now, let's clear that out, because we don't want to leave it around. What I want to teach you right from the beginning in this course is that we're going to make our cell references absolute unless I tell you otherwise, and we're going to make the absolute reference easy to understand. And the way we do that is we give it a name. You give the name in the name box. Here's the name box. If I click on that and I type home underline price and hit enter, now forevermore I can go to my formula box, look up here, I can look at my name manager, and I can see, let's put that up here, that home price is found in sheet number 1. That's a reference to this tab down here at the bottom, and it's cell C8, and it's an absolute reference. An absolute reference has $signs in front of it. We'll go into more detail about this later, but the way to make an absolute reference automatic is to give it a name. So now whenever I type the word home price in any cell, let's close this out. If I want this cell to have the home price, I can type home underline price. Let me do it right. Let me put a plus in front of it. Plus home price, and there's $750,000. Okay, we've defined a name for home price. Home price will always refer to cell C8. We'll be doing a lot of work on absolute references to cells and relative references to cells. But for right now, to complete our data section, let's go through and let's name our cells so that we know what information is going to have reference to later on. So down payment percentage. We look at our assignment. Your assignment will give you the percentage that you're going to use for this, why don't we just, for this, we'll use 20%. Okay? That 20% right now is sitting in cell C9, so we go up to the name box and we type down payment percentage and hit enter. There are lots of different ways to get your names into the system, okay? But for right now, let's just focus on doing it one way so that nobody gets confused. The down payment in dollars, let's name it here, down payment, let's call it down payment amount, okay? It doesn't need to have anything in the cell in order to name it. We're just naming it now. We'll come back later and do a calculation. The loan amount, same thing. Let's go back up to the name box. We'll type loan amount. Come down here and we'll say interest rate. And we'll come down here and say loan period. I hope you are catching that this is an underscore. And I just want to note here, the reason for that is if I try to put a space there, it will say it's invalid. So I'll have to go back up and do it right. To do it right, it has to have a continuous string of characters. And so to avoid shoving it together and creating something that's hard to read, like loan period, like that, I think it's easier to put an underscore there. Loan period. And finally, we're going to have the monthly payment, which is the goal of the amortization table. Everybody wants to know, hey, if I borrow this much money at this much down payment, how much is my monthly payment going to be? So we'll hit enter there. Now we have some calculating to do. The calculations are pretty straightforward in this first one, and they're made even easier by the fact that we've named the data that we're going to reference. So let's go to down payment. Let's put an equal sign to show that we're going to be using a formula here. Our down payment is going to be the home price. Now if I click on C8, home price comes up automatically because I've already named it that way. And then what I want to do is I want to multiply the home price by the down payment percentage. Okay, then I hit enter and it gives me this big number. Why? Because our down payment percentage is a bit large. A percentage should be 0.2. There. That gives us a little bit better down payment. Now a word about formatting. Formatting is the single most important thing that you do to present your data in a legible and in a form that your user can use. We've all looked at things that make no sense, and often they make no sense because they're not formatted properly. So let's take a look before we go any farther. And let's take our home price here. We'll go to our home ribbon. And here is your format option. For $, we can hit accounting number format, which will slide that $sign over there to the edge, or we can just call it currency. Let's use currency just for this one because it makes for a cleaner presentation. But if you use accounting, all it does is just change it around in the cell. So let's just use currency for now. Down payment, we want to use a %. Okay. Down payment in dollars, let's do the currency again. Let's keep it consistent. Whatever one you choose is great, but make sure you choose the same one so that it's consistent. Now we go to loan amount. If the down payment is $150,000, it's pretty easy to figure out our loan amount. We go put an equal sign so that the computer knows that we're going to put a formula. We're going to start with our home price, and then we're going to subtract the down payment, and that gives us $600,000. Let's format that as well. Let's see, currency. And that $600,000 is the amount of the loan itself. Okay. Next amount that we're going to enter is the interest rate. And let's just say someone tells you you can borrow at 5 3/4, which would be 0.0575, and that's your interest rate. By convention, interest rate is always an annual amount. So let's format that. You'll see that I've put the cursor on percent style. Okay, now it's percent. It changed to 6. What happened? What happened was that it automatically rounded. You're going to have to watch for this because I gave you in the sample 5.75 that I want you to enter. So you need to increase the decimal points. Okay, you can increase them all the way out, however many numbers. But let's just look at 2 of them. So you just click on the increase or decrease until you see what you need to see. The loan period in years, we want you to do a full 30-year mortgage. So we'll just put a 30 there. Now, it automatically thought that I wanted currency because I've been using that, but I don't. Just put a comma, and let's get rid of those other 2 so that we just see a 30 there. Now what we want to do is we want to go back through and use these amounts to calculate our monthly payment. You're going to calculate your monthly payment by using an internal function. And the internal function is found in 2 places. You can either just type equals PMT, and you can see that it comes right out. It says calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate, which is what we're using. And then if every function has parentheses for the argument of the function. Once I hit the parentheses, you see rate, NPER, which means number of periods, PV, which means present value, FV, which means future value, and type. Don't worry about type right now. That's just a different an option that you might use later. Let's erase this. Let's assume you're in the testing center. You've forgotten everything I just told you. Every function in Excel is found in a function library. See right there, function library. The payment function is a financial function. So if you click on financial and you go down to payment, which will be off your screen, but trust me, PMT will show up. If I hit the PMT, a box comes up. And this box will tell you everything you need to know to use the function. So if you get into trouble, please use your function library. It's there to help you. Okay, we're going to fill out our function arguments here by using these names that we entered early on. So our rate, we know our rate is going to be the interest rate. There's 2 ways we can do it. We can type interest rate, okay, and you can see over here that it picked up the interest rate as soon as I entered it. Or for number of periods, let's do it a different way. The other way you can do it, whenever you define names in Excel, it stores those names in the name manager. Okay, and the name manager is found in the formula bar where you're already at. And I can go up here to use in formula, and I can click on that, and I can say I want the number of periods. And I come down here and I click loan period. But you're really, if you're watching and you're sharp here, you're going to see that my amortization is not going to work because the loan period is given a number of years, but you're going to have a monthly payment. So we're going to have to go back and adjust these. Right now you're doing a 30-year amortization, but you're only compounding every year. So the adjustment that you make, and this is what you need to know for the first spreadsheet, is you're going to take your interest rate, see it says interest rate per period, and we're going to divide it by 12. Okay? Then we're going to take our loan period in years, and we're going to multiply it times 12 so that we have a number of months. Now we get monthly amortization because we have a monthly rate and we have the number of months in the loan period. So don't be confused. Whenever you go out and shop for mortgages, you talk about years. You say, I want a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage. But when you do the amortization, you're going to have a monthly payment. The way to do that is to make sure that your rate, which is always given as an annual rate, if it's not stated otherwise, the convention is that this is an annual rate, divide by 12. Your loan period, you're going to multiply by 12. Now what's the present value? The present value is the amount that the future payments is worth now. It's the amount you're borrowing. Now the big mistake people make on this test is to put the home price. But you're not borrowing the home price. you're borrowing your loan amount, which is the home price less the down payment. So let's go up here using formula and let's say loan amount. And you can see the $600,000 is equal to what's in C11. So let's hit OK. See what pops up. What pops up is a monthly payment of $3,501.44. And by convention, it's being displayed in a red bracketed form to show it's a negative number. Let's force it to change to a regular looking number. Okay, now we just know our monthly payment is going to be $3,501.44. Before we leave our data section, now that we have all our numbers ready to go, what we want to do is we want to distinguish which of these numbers were entered by the user from those numbers that were calculated. If you'll recall, and here we're going to do a format all at the same time. So hold the Control key down while you do this next step. Control key down. Click on Home Price, because we entered home price. Click on Down Payment Percentage, because we entered down payment percentage. We calculated the down payment dollar sign. We calculated the loan amount, but I gave you the interest rate. We gave you the loan period. Those four boxes were given by the user, so let's distinguish them by going and giving them a backfill that's the same as your color bar. So I hit enter and I click out, and it looks like I got an extra here. That will happen to you on the test. So we go to the extra, we click on fill, and we say no fill. So that cleans that up. Okay, we had one number that didn't want to center, and this is a problem that sometimes crops up. Formatting takes practice because the program is so powerful it will do things that you don't always expect. So I go first to my alignment. I go left, right, center. That 30 is not budging. You'll recall that we made it a comma and we changed it from accounting and we took off the bottom. But what it did is it created a custom format. It assumed that, oh, he must really want it at the left side or the right side of the cell. So just go up here and take off the formatting. Go back to general and you'll see your number pops into the center. Formatting is something that you really have to practice and do a few times so that you can see where things might go wrong. But the biggest problem that you'll need to face on the test is to make sure that your interest rate shows all of the decimals. You'll never be given, who's ever heard of a 15.5% down payment on a house? So you typically won't have that there. And the dollars and cents, you can typically figure out what to do with that. Now this one here, this is what the program is actually calculating. And these numbers are going to be relevant later on. But we don't want to show them because your user is just wondering what amount they're going to write every month in a check. So when I see a number in a spreadsheet that has these number of digits and there's no special reason for it, that's an error. And that will cost you points. So make sure that you go through and you figure out exactly how to format these. Let's center it and get the formatting correct. That is a complete data section. Everything is where it needs to be, and even more important, if you go to formulas and you go to name manager, there are your names. Every one you're going to use has its own name defined so that wherever I am in the spreadsheet, if I say monthly payment, it will come right back to cell C14. This is important. Now, a little bit of problems may crop up when you're naming these things. You may forget, for example, you may name home price accidentally when your cursor is there on home price. If you name it here, then A8 is going to become home price instead of C8, which is what it should be. So when you look at this, before you move on, make sure you've got the right column there. And if this were accidentally, let's just assume that home price was done wrong, you'd want to delete it from the name manager before you try to rename it. Otherwise, you're going to create two names, you're going to have a conflict, and you're going to end up spending 15-20 minutes. The only way I can describe it is like a dog chasing its tail. It's very frustrating when these things happen. So I'm giving you an error correction. Go to name manager. If you see something that's not right, just delete it. You want to delete home price? I've deleted home price. Now I come back here and you see that all of these formulas depended on home price. Now they can't find home price. So they're telling me I've got a name error. I just go back to home price, click up here, home underscore price, all is well again. And I can go to name manager. So whenever you're fixing a name that's gone wrong, delete it first in name manager and you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. Now we've got our data, we have all of the numbers that we need. Let's build our table. Remember, blank line above, blank line below, and we're going to go to our home ribbon. We're going to do a bold and underline, and we're going to call this the answer section. And we're going to make our answer section have a color cue as well. Section bars will have colors, and let's do a light green for answers. Okay, so we'll do that green there. Let's put a box around it, thick box border. Click out. Everything looks good. We've got our data section, our answer section. The next thing we do is we build our table. Now when you build a table, you're going to have a series of columns. Column headings will be bold and underlined, and they'll be centered. And if you have any questions about what I want to see in the table, I will typically tell you in the parameters of the exercise exactly what columns I want to see. So let's start this. This is an amortization schedule. We'll have, let's go back and bold, underline, month, the payment. Well, we'll just enter text and go back later and clean it up. Payment, interest, principal, and then the balance of the loan. All right? I prefer to do my formatting as I go along rather than get to the end and then try to clean it up. It saves time, but you develop the habits that work best for you. So it looks like we're going to center them. The way you center is you go to alignment. There's your center, center text. Then I go to bold. I double click it because I already had that month bolded. And I'll do the same for the underline. Get rid of the underline and then put it on everybody. So now I have my underline. And here's my answer section. Looks like my bars went a little too far. So why don't I take all of these, and I'm going to teach you how to cut and paste here. Control X is a cut, and that cuts everything. Then I put it I put the cursor on B18 and I hit Control V, which is a paste. And that pastes it all. Alright. Next thing I'm going to want to do, let's just kind of squeeze that line A there to give us a little more room. Okay. And let's put our numbers in. Our month, we're always going to start with a 0. Okay, and then a 1 and a 2. And if you'll recall, we have 30 years here. Let's stretch this out. You see how I'm stretching these columns? I'm going up between the columns, and you can adjust the widths. Let's keep them all equal here. So let's just select, and we select by hitting Shift, and we've selected all our columns. Now let's do a right click on the mouse, and it'll give you these options. Go to column width. And so that we're not playing with it too much and getting different column widths, let's just give it a 13. Column width 13, okay. That stretches it out, makes it look even, a little cleaner. So now we've got a 0, a 1, and a 2, but we've got 30 years to fill in. You got to fill in 360. We're going to do all kinds of stuff in later exercises, but right now I want to teach you how to use autofill. Autofill, you take this black box, click, hold, and drag so that you see the 0 and the 1 and the 2 in the box. That clues the computer in that when I take this little black box on the corner, see my white cross, and I move it up here and it turns to a black cross? Now when I click on it and I pull it down, do you see that 3 there? The computer realized that I've got a series going. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can drag it. I can go all the way down. Let's go all the way down to 360, because that's what we want for our table, 360 months. So I drag a little too far, and then I go up. The box says 360. The minute I lift off of the left mouse button, the numbers will pop in. Before I get rid of the formatting, or before I click out of that, let's center them while they're all highlighted. So now they're centered. Now I can click out of that column, and my month is all done. There are the months of my 360 line table. So that's the first part of the answer section. Now, in month 1, my payment is going to be the same as my monthly payment because it's a fixed payment. So I hit equal sign, and then I click on the monthly payment, and that gives me my payment. Every month is going to be the same. So let's come up here, and remember we have to format this. I think it's pretty clear from the context of our table that we're dealing with dollars here. So I'm not going to put a dollar sign. But you could put a dollar sign. That doesn't affect your grade. I just want it to look good. So here's your payment. $3,501.44. Now, you ask how we're going to fill up a 360 line table. Once you have your payment here on your first line that looks good in format, it's always going to be the same. I can auto-fill it. The program will see these months here on the left side and will be smart enough to say, if I autofill, it's going to copy this down row by row until it runs out of months on the left. The way I do that is I hit the autofill button, again, that little black square that's to the lower right of the cell. When my cursor turns to a black X, I double click. And then I can see my payment goes all the way down to the bottom. I don't typically center this because it's going to change as I make changes to the data. So we'll just leave this one alone. And that's my payment. The interest and principal sections of the table are a little bit trickier. And if you've had Accounting 232A in your past, you'll understand this a little bit better. But you don't need to have taken that class. What you're going to do first is you're going to start in month 0 with the balance. The balance that you're going to use is going to be the loan amount. You just put your loan amount in 0, 600,000. The biggest problem I see on tests is that the rest of the table will be just formatted beautifully, but this little orphaned number here will not be formatted. So make sure and give it a format. So let's put a comma there. Okay, that's our balance. In order to figure out what the interest for the month was, you have to do a calculation that involves taking that prior month's balance and then multiplying it times the annual interest rate times 12. But here's the trick. We can't retype this for 360 times. So I want to create a reference that will always reference the prior month's balance. And I can do that quite easily in Excel. What I do is I take, let's just take this cell, F19. That reference does not need to be named. This is the exception to the absolute reference rule. When you're doing a table and you're doing an operation on the prior month numbers, then you're just going to reference the prior month number. We don't need to reference we don't need to give it a name or reference something in the data section. We're just referencing up 1 over 2. Then I'm going to multiply that times the interest rate times 12. Or sorry, divided by 12. Divided by 12. And why is it divided by 12? Because this is a month's worth of interest, and your interest rate is an annual rate. So we'll put that in parentheses to make sure that it works right. And again, be careful with these formulas, because it'll do exactly what you tell it to do, And if you don't know your order of operations, or if you're unsure if it's going to do the multiplication or the division, just put parentheses in. That tells us that our interest in the first month is going to be $2,875. And let me show you a little trick here. If we go to formulas and we say trace precedence, it's going to draw some arrows for me. It's going to show me where I'm getting my information. The information is coming from the prior month's balance and the interest rate. Because I used the name interest rate, it will always refer, if I copy this cell down, it will always refer to that 5.75. So let's remove the arrows and I'll show you how that works. Before we do anything further, we'll format that, and then I'm going to copy it all the way down using that procedure we described earlier. We go to this box, change the white X to it does automatically, and click. Now you're seeing zeros on everything down here because when you get to this cell, and I'll put my arrows up here to check, trace precedence, now it has taken my relative reference, it's gone up 1 over 2 to a blank. And it's still using the same interest rate. So no matter how far down in the table I go, it will always use this cell for the interest rate, but it will adjust each step of the way to the prior month's balance. And that's the way we want it. So let's remove the arrows. The principal that we're going to pay is an easy calculation, shouldn't cause you any trouble. Let's put our equal sign to show that it's a formula. And we're basically going to take this cell, which is the payment, and we're going to subtract from it this cell, which was the interest. That gives us the principal amount that we're going to pay from this payment. Remember, the payment has $3,501.44. That's the payment. It's never going to change. But every month, as you pay principal, you're going to deduct that principal amount from your balance. And you don't know how much principal you can apply until you've paid your interest. So the first thing you do is you calculate your interest on that prior balance, then you subtract that from the payment to get the principal, and then you subtract the principal from the balance. So let's take this. We're going to take the prior month's balance and we're going to subtract the principal amount. And you see, as soon as we did that, it popped up with a number down here because now it had a number to work with. So let's take this principal calculation and let's fill our table by clicking on the autofill. Okay, and you can see it kind of changed here because there's no information for the balance, but that we'll do this for balance now, and now it's all the way we want it to be. And it should be a proper amortization goes to 0. So if we come down here all the way to the end of our table, 0. Right there, that's 20 points on your test. The first thing I look at is, did I get a 0 there? Okay. Hopefully you guys did it right, but the common problems have to do with where the formulas are referencing. So let me put up the precedent again. Every interest cell will take the month before. I'm just doing this at random. It takes the balance from the month before times the interest rate divided by 12. Okay, your interest rate's fine there. Let's remove the arrows. Every principal is simply the payment less the interest. And then the balance does the same thing. It takes the principal that you've calculated and subtracts it. That's your table. You're done. You've completed your first Excel spreadsheet. You can do some formatting. Let's see. One thing that might look good here is we could highlight. I'm clicking and dragging, and let's go all the way up to the top here. And why don't we just make the balance have a $sign? See how it looks. That's an accounting $sign. Looks a little confusing. Use the back arrow, take that out. What happens if we do a currency $sign? How's that look? It looks a little busy. So I'll just take it out. I'll just leave it as a number. Sorry, as a comma. And that's that. Here is where I allow you to show me that you can do this cleanly. If you want to put dollar signs there, that's fine. Does not bother me. But the rules of thumb that will cost you points will be if you haven't centered your column headings, bold and underlined, if your colors are inconsistent, the colors in your data section should match your color bar. If you haven't named variables, you'll lose points for that. If you have, for example, if I see this balance, that loan amount, if it's, let's go here and remove the no format. If I see a number like this, so it looks like as you guys did your table, you formatted everything right, but you forgot that, that's an error that costs. We want everything to be consistent and to look good. Now let's do one final thing. Let's go to our page layout and let's go over to the print titles page setup. Okay, when you hit that little box here in the corner, just under print titles, you'll get a header footer tab. Page margins header footer sheet. Your header footer, let's put a footer on every page that comes out. Let's do a custom footer. Let's put it in the center. And if you go to this icon right here, it will insert the file path. Okay, all you have to do is click on that center section, left or right, I don't care. I just want to see at the bottom of every page. Okay, and then it puts the file path for this spreadsheet. I hit OK, and that's done. Now if I do a print preview, if I come over here and I go to print, you can see that there's a file path at the bottom of every page. This is what I want to see for you to get 100 points. Okay, one last thing that I forgot that I'm going to come back and show you here. Let's go back to our, let's get out to our home. This is our spreadsheet. The power of a spreadsheet is that I can now go to my variables and I can say, what if I want to buy $1 million house at 20% down with that 5.75% interest rate? Let's just figure that out. So the minute I hit that $1 million and hit enter, my entire table has automatically reprinted itself or recalculated. It still comes down to 0 at the end of 30 years. But now my balance with the 20% is $800,000. It shows me my monthly payment is $4,668. The user needs to understand that every one of these cells here that is got a color in it are user entered variables. I can't change monthly payment on this spreadsheet without messing everything up. But what I can do is I can change the down payment percentage. Let's say I'm going to make a 30% down payment. Well, that's obviously going to change my balance a little. It's going to lower it. Now my monthly payment's about $4,000. Let's say my interest rate goes up to 8%. Now my payment is $5,136. So understand that when I will look at your spreadsheets or my grader, we're going to make changes to these numbers to make sure that the changes, let's say I have a 0 down payment, flow through to your spreadsheet. If I saw somebody hard coding, which would mean just typing the answer instead of the formula you see there, that would be a substantial deduction from your test score. So understand that the whole purpose we're doing spreadsheets is for flexibility, and this is a good one. I mean, you can pop this up in an interview situation or to show somebody what you can do. And even though this is your very first spreadsheet, very much a beginner's piece of work, it looks good and it shows that you know something about how to use this software.